What is going on, the Carp Nation? I am not BobZeBattleDroid, as you could tell by my voice. In fact, I'm a friend of his, and I'm over to explain my Hoot Hoot Noctowl deck. Newly updated. I took out the cards that are not going to be in the next rotation and put in some new cards, and I'm going to explain that to you right now. We're going to start out with the Pokemon. First we have, naturally, the 4 Hoot Hoot and the 4 Noctowl. For those of you who have no idea what a Hoot Hoot Noctowl deck is, you run, I'll just go through it first. You run the Noctowl, then you run the, I have the 2/2/2 Vileplume line. Now the point of the Noctowl deck is to get this set up turn 1 or turn 2 if you have to. The ability, Irritating Pollen. Each player can't play any item cards from his or her hand. That can hurt us, but only hardly. We try to adapt around that and mostly hurt our opponents. This is where our main attacker comes in, Noctowl. Noctowl's first attack, High Flight, is the one we'll be using. For only a double colorless, it does 20 damage times the amount of item cards in both players' hands after we reveal our hands. So not only do you get a peek at your opponent's hand, they get a peek at yours. But it's totally worth it once you lock them and you just start dealing up all this damage. Now this is what my deck was before the rotations happened. Of course we have 2 Shaman. Since we can't use any items, we need to keep that going. 2 Noctowl Break. Now I'm going to have to explain Noctowl Break real quick. Noctowl Break is a new card, and what it does is Night Scan. Your opponent reveals his or her hand, and the attack does 30 more damage for each trainer card you find there. Now since it's a break card, we'll still be able to use High Flight, but it is 3 energy instead of 2, so double colors won't be able to cut it. It doesn't use your hand, so any item cards in your hand, if you have enough item cards in your hand, you could still just use High Flight, but you might want to be using the Noctowl Break for the extra 40 HP and the option to do a lot of extra damage, since trainer cards includes more than just item cards. On to the supporters. Naturally, we're going to be running 4 Sycamore. We want to set up fast. The only time we'll be using supporters most of our time, since once we get the item lock up, we won't be able to use our own items. 4 Sycamores, 2 Ends, 3 Skylas. We can search for any supporters I have only one of, such as Lysander, in case you need that draw out. Wally, so I can get to Noctowl without having to discard Ultra Balls. If the Ultra Ball, if my hand is not very large at the time. The Single Hex Maniac, that's very, it makes your deck very pliable in case you need to use an item card, just dire need. You can get rid of your own Vileplume's ability. That may be able to backfire too much. It shouldn't backfire too much if you're in that dire of a situation already. What you would use Hex Maniac for mostly is if they Lysander Vileplume, you'll Hex Maniac, and then you'll be able to Float Stone, which I'll get to later, to get that retreat, since its retreat cost is 3 or 4, I believe. It's pretty big. It's 3, and you don't want to be wasting any of your precious energy on them. That's all the supporters. Now we're going to move on to the trainers. 3 Trainers Mail. Again, setting up is important. Turn 1 is very important. And so we're going to be using the Trainers Mail to get whatever trainers we need turn 1. 4 Acrobikes. What Acrobike is look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hand, discard the other card. Now, me being a conservative player, this is kind of difficult for me to discard a card just for getting another card. But I understand. Bob explained to me that, you know, I need to accelerate as fast as possible, turn 1. 4 Ultra Ball and 4 Level Ball, because once we have the Forest of Giant Plants out, we'll just need to get them in our hand so we can play them. The problem is getting them into your hand. but once we have them in our hand, we can just set them down. So we got 8 of those. 3 floatstone for putting them down turn 1 on your Vileplumes, or using the Hex Maniac, like I said. Since Startling Megaphone is going out, and there aren't many cards I'll be able to get rid of item cards that you attach to Pokemon in the new rotation yet, we'll be able to attach those turn 1 and not have to worry too much about the Vileplume. Of course, we'll need 4 Forest of Giant Plants. Why would we not have 4? Because it's one of the most important pillars of our deck. And here we go. I added a little bit more energy. Of course, there's just 4 double colorless for the attacker. And there's 4 grass energy now because we need that 3 energy for the Noctowl break. And that's it. That's the entire deck. The main premises of the deck is, as I've been repeating over and over and over this entire video, get Vileplume turn 1, make your opponent extremely angry with you, and be pliable if they try to fight that irritating pollen. So get the Noctowl out, keep the Vileplume on the bench, and annoy them. And if you have enough item cards, or if you get to the trainers and they have enough trainer cards in their hand, you'll be able to pack a Swift Punch, and maybe even get some Megas if they're that stuck. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and Bob and I will be back later with a battle and an extreme flip it or rip it. And we haven't had one of those in a while, and I'm extremely excited. Not to make a pun. See you later. Ciao.